We want to thank folks for joining. We realize people will be coming in as we proceed, and we'll accept them as they come in. We did have to start over because we did want to enable the chat. So that is a way that you can offer questions to us. We will also attempt to allow you to ask questions orally. I do want to acknowledge University City, in particular Captain Lemons, who's kind of manning the controls for us this evening. So he will be the one who will unmute you. You are all muted now, and allow you to speak when you have a question. And Captain Lemons, let me ask you directly, how should folks be recognized if they did want to orally ask a question?
They wanted to. Good evening, Councilmember Clay, Councilmember Smotherson. If any attendees would like to ask a question orally, we ask that they raise their hands at the bottom bar, and we will then recognize you, or you could also enter into chat that you have a question, and then we'll try to do it as smoothly and as efficiently as possible.
Thank you so much, Captain Lemons, again for your time and your expertise. This is new, so there are bound to be some glitches. So we do ask that you bear with us. But the purpose of this evening is to give you some information that's going on within the ward in University City, and of course hear and answer your questions and concerns. Want to say up front, Councilman Smotherson and I may not have all the answers to your questions now. But what we plan to do is use our newsletter that we've started that comes out monthly. We'll try to answer questions, and often questions are similar. We'll try to answer questions that we weren't able to either provide answers to or get to in the newsletter. So we will dedicate our next edition to follow up where we can. One final housekeeping note. We are going to keep to about a hard hour. We'll go a little bit beyond 8, maybe 8:05, because we did have the people did have to come to come back into the meeting. But we do want to be sensitive to Captain Lemons, who's giving his time to do this for us. So we will end at about 8:05. So with that, I think we can go into the meeting. Councilman Smotherson, you wanted me to start with the two items, COVID and recycling.
Yes, sir.
So we are using this format this evening, of course, because we're in the throes of a pandemic, and as you may be aware, public health is a county function. So University City is not directly involved with decision making regarding vaccines or any administration of the public health protocols. But I did want to share, and I'll put this in the chat, stlcorona.com is the county's website dedicated to coronavirus information for St. Louis County. So within that, you'll find frequently asked questions. There's a lot of information about the vaccine, who's eligible, how to get it, where to get it. Sign up, as you probably heard, is a bit of a protracted process. So you can't just go somewhere and get a vaccine. You do have to sign up in advance. There's real-time data on stlcorona.com, real-time data on what the positivity rates are, what infection rates are, all those things that you would need to know. As it relates to what we are doing here locally in University City, we know there have been many questions about our facilities opening. What I can share is that we're actively looking at Centennial Commons in particular. We are looking at bringing back staff that will facilitate the opening. I'm loath to give an exact date of when that'll happen. As you might imagine, there are a lot of variables, but we're thinking certainly within the next couple of months. We believe we'll see a line of sight. What we look at is the positivity rate. Currently, we're a little over 10% or around 10%. At least that's the last data I saw. We feel most comfortable at a positivity rate in the county around 5% before we open. There's a couple of reasons for that. Our population is unlike other communities that maybe have opened up in that we have a significant senior population in University City. And we also have a higher than average African American population as well. Both of those populations have been more vulnerable and more susceptible to COVID. So we are taking additional precautions. But having said that, we certainly hear you and your desire to have our facilities open, and just know we are working on that. Let me also, and we are going to have a question and answer at the end. So I'm going to just go through items quickly, and then we can answer questions related to them in the latter part of the meeting. The second thing that I wanted to bring forward is recycling and the importance of having the right materials in the recycling bin. There is UCity has had what's called a single stream recycling program. That means, as you all know, we have the blue bins, and all our recycling can go into that blue bin. That's plastic, that's paper, that's glass. Some of you who are longtime UCityans may remember a time where we had a yellow bin and a different colored bin for newspapers and other things. We've done away with that. So it provides a convenience, but with that convenience comes a level of diligence that we have to have in terms of making sure that the right things are going in our recycling bins. Newspaper, first of all, everything needs to be clean and dry. So if you're putting in plastic containers, they need to be cleaned. If you're putting in newspaper, cardboard, needs to be cleaned and dry, no food waste on it. I would say glass, of course, same thing. Remove labels if you are able to, that also helps. When in doubt, please put it in the trash. We know plastic bags, the thin plastic bags we get from Schnucks, Walgreens, those aren't able to go in. But I certainly understand. I live in University City. I deal with recycling as you do. I have a young child in the house. We go through a lot of packaging. Sometimes I don't know what should go in and what shouldn't. When in doubt, please just throw it in the trash, because the cost of a contaminated load of recycling that we take to the recycling, our recycling vendor, is about $20 more a ton than what we would pay for clean recycling. That may not sound like a lot. We go through a lot of tons of garbage and waste, and so that money adds up very quickly. And there's some other factors related to that as well. But I encourage you to on the UCity website, there's information concerning recycling, what should go in and what shouldn't. In addition, the last newsletter that we sent out had a lot of information about recycling as well. So with that, let me turn it over to my colleague, Councilman Smotherson, for some items that he has.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Clay. Very quickly, two things that I want to talk about, and I think that's on the agenda, is we will get to the Olive 170 development. Very quickly, I wanted to talk about the issue about the police station and renovating the annex. As you know, we just finished a study session that was on February 8th. And I advise all of you that are on this meeting tonight to actually go back under the UCity website and try to find and locate that study session so that you can hear the issues that were presented, how this presentation was presented. What I will tell you is that the direction that the council is going is to renovate the annex for the police. And in this study session, so I'm actually giving you information from the study session. It looks like the city manager is actually going to make recommendations for a bond project. And I think that he actually wants to do that in August of this year. So the total study session, the total amount of the renovation and improvements of buildings, that total amount added up to $29,118,000. So that's basically $30 million for all of the projects that he wanted to put that fell under the space needs study. But for a bond issue in August, it looks like he only wants to present 20 million of that space needs study. And so that's the recommendation. And I can actually read to you what he's recommending on this. And that's City Hall watertight improvements for 2 million, elevator improvements for 500,000, $500,000. The police annex restoration, he has that listed as 15.7 million. Trinity multi-purpose restoration. And if you don't know what the Trinity building is, that's the old library that sits behind the annex. And so that's going to be 2.3 million. So again, this is information that's on the website that you can pull up and view yourself. But, and I will tell you that the council, the city manager is going to present this to the council probably within the next 30 days or so, because there's a deadline to meet that August ballot. To put this on the August ballot, there's a deadline of May 25th. So you can imagine that this is going to be presented to the council within the next 2 months so that we can meet that deadline. Now, what I will tell you is that City Councilman Clay and myself voted no on the Trevor study. That's the Trevor study is the space needs study is where we are now. And that study recommended to put the police back into the annex. Again, we voted against that. We were the only two that did that. I will leave it pretty much at that. And if you personally want to know my reasons, we can have that discussion either individually or and I will take calls, emails, or however you want to do that. But right now, I just want to kind of get to just giving you the information because I want you to fairly understand what's going on and what the opposition side is, the side that wants to put the police back into the annex, and the side and my side that, and I'm completely against that. I believe City Plaza, the Civic Plaza, should be for the citizens and the community. And for me, the police don't fit into that scenario. And I believe that our great and good police force deserve a police station. So again, but I honestly want you to look at the studies. I know that the mayor will more than welcome your discussion or questions. I will take questions and emails and calls on this subject anytime. Again, I just wanted to give you that information. The study is a February 8th space needs study that we just finished. And that's the intention moving forward and plan of the city and the city council. And so if you have any questions about that, please add them to the chat or raise your hand. Okay, and I'm hoping that that was enough for right now. Was that enough, sir, you think?
Yep, and if you want to go to Olive 170.
Yes, I do want to go to that. And I wanted to let everybody know, as far as Olive 170 development is moving forward. Now, there was immediately, and I want to address one question that was put in very early in the chat. And that question, and I don't know that if everybody has access to the chat, you can see the question. And right off the bat, the question says, question on Olive 170, 170 Olive, I am wondering how long this will drag on. Novus has not met any of the previous deadlines. It's not fair that what they are offering us, I can't buy something anywhere without getting mortgage, but banks are not lending, say, a loan for 40K. Okay, specifically, I'm not going to get into the negotiation of that, but what I will say is that the development at Olive and 170 is going to resolve itself within the next, I would say, 30 days. It will, and I'm hoping, if I'm saying that correctly, Councilmember Clay, would you please correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm right, I believe this is going to resolve itself within the next 30 days. I know that our city manager is also on this meeting, so he's listening to me say this, but this is not going to go on forever. There were some unforeseen things that we have to deal with in reference to negotiations of property, which were many. And we've literally, as a city, and this is public information, that the city did in fact have to take 3 sites to court, and that is in court right now. There are decisions that are being made. I can't give you, I can't tell you what that is as of right now because that's not settled. But again, this project, this development is going to resolve itself probably within the next 30 days. And we will have defining information moving forward. And that's as much as I can absolutely tell you.
Right.
Again, because a lot of this is in negotiations in the courts. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Go ahead. Jump in.
And a couple things to add to that, Councilman Smotherson. We certainly know, especially for the folks in the redevelopment project area, this has been an incredibly long process. So we know that. COVID did delay things, as it delayed everything in life. We did try to move through that as quickly as we did, but the reality of COVID did slow things down. So what is it when we talk about resolution? What does that mean? Well, essentially, what it means is the settling of the largest parcels of land in the redevelopment area. Public storage and two other large parcels are obviously things that we had to get site control of, is what they call it, in order to move forward. Additionally, there was a school that's kind of in the back of the development. I think that property has been addressed as well. And so there were those big parcels that needed to be addressed. That resolution should be happening, as Councilman Smotherson said, within the next 30 or so days. And so that will give us the indication as to how we can move forward. So resolution, unfortunately, will not mean you're going to start to see trucks and we're going to see a Costco in a month. It doesn't work quite that way. There's still a couple of other stages, but once those big parcels are under site control, then we have really a line of sight, no pun intended, to move forward with this. So that should be happening in the next, again, 30 or so days.
Okay. So again, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, Councilman Smotherson, if you wanted to go to the chat, we can start to maybe look at some of the questions. And then I don't know, and perhaps Captain Lemons, can you see if people are in fact raising their hands? Because I can't see that. I don't think I can.
Councilmember Clay, there's no hands raised at the moment, sir. Okay.
But we did have a question, and I think everyone can see the chat, so I won't necessarily read it word for word. But essentially, how does the city act as a resource for homeowners in the RPA 1 area while being in close communication with Novus? So one of the major things that will be happening once we're able to settle the land that I spoke about earlier is the establishment of a relocation assistance office. That was established in the redevelopment agreement that the city signed with Novus, and so that office is designed to help residents, particularly those in the redevelopment area, with the move and the things that they need to do to make their transition. So that will be the major thing that happens. Within state statute, there is an opportunity for those who are moving in the redevelopment area to get, as a part of their package, cost associated with moving. So that typically is negotiated with the developer, but state statute does allow for additional dollars to be given to those homeowners affected for moving and relocation. So that, again, that's an individual negotiation with the developer. The city does not get involved in that, but that's also available as well.
Yes, sir, and that's absolutely correct. Again, the city does have a relocation packet that will be offered, but a lot of this won't happen until we are secure in reference to the developer and moving forward, meaning that the developer verifies with the city that he's ready to move forward. And again, that's going to happen within the next 30 days. Once we get that reassurance and that security that the developer is ready to move forward, then to answer another question, a new timeline will be set. Number one, it's going to be set with the developer and the city will make that known to everybody what that new timeline will look like. And I'm hoping that that answers their questions. And I'm looking at just trying to ask the
Yeah,
questions.
police station not seen as a part of the Civic Plaza. Safety concerns are not sufficient space. To that question, and let me kind of give my view on this. During my time on the school board, that was the period, and I was honored enough to be actually president during part of this time, is when we tore down the old Pershing, built the new one, tore down the old Barbara Jordan, built the new one, made significant renovations to the high school. And so I've seen how the debate between maintaining an older building and just trying to renovate it versus building new can play out. And so I bring that experience to the city council and evaluating the process associated with a new police station. I was and in some ways continue to be an advocate for at least more in-depth study of what a new station could look like. I don't, for various reasons, that really didn't happen. The study that we did was more focused on putting the police in the annex. But I think to the point of Civic Plaza, we do have some developments happening there. We actually have a hotel going up in the old Delmar Harvard building. And we have some other potential developments around there. And it's not that the police shouldn't be in Civic Plaza, it's not a bad place, but I think there are better alternatives given what we are looking to do. So that's my view on it. We need to get the police out of the trailers that they are currently in. That's inadequate. Everyone acknowledges that. But my view is that more study can and should be devoted to what a new station could potentially look like.
Correct. Okay.
Clay, Councilmember Smotherson, we do have 3 hands raised.
Okay. Let's take those first.
The first hand is from Nova Felton.
Yes, ma'am. Miss Felton, how are you?
Yes. You're muted, Miss Felton.
Okay, can you hear?
Yes, we can.
Okay. How much did it cost Olivet when they redid their fire department and police department there? Do you know? Did anybody compare?
That's a good question. I do not know the answer to that.
Ms. Felton, if I may, and Councilmember Clay, if this is okay, what I can tell you is that if given a comparison, we went out and looked at the new Creve Coeur station on Ballas. And that's a new station, separate building from the original City Hall, which is next door. But it was the cost of that police station, which was very nice, was $8.1 million. And even with that construction, they saved probably almost $1 million in savings. But again, the cost of that new building was $8.1 million. And of course, you know that Creve Coeur is a smaller municipality with about 18,000 residents. During the day, they increased to about 27,000 simply because of the number of businesses in that city. But As a standard, they are about 18,000 as a residential area, municipality. And I'm hoping that helps.
I was just, I mean, because I just thought the one in Olivet, I mean, they got everything in there and it was done so well, looks so good. And I mean, they have everything there. Did anybody even consider, just moving a lot of that stuff out of it? I guess out of the present facilities where we have the council meetings and all, and doing something differently. I don't know. It just.
Yes, ma'am. It's still under discussion, but the council is moving a certain direction, and again, that's still under discussion, and may in fact be presented to you as a residents in August as a ballot initiative. So again, that's where it stands, and I definitely understand your statement. Can we take the next question, if that's okay?
Yeah. I think somebody's muted.
Make sure you're unmuted.
Am I unmuted?
You are, yeah.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening. This is Dr. Stewart, and I'm probably behind the times, but where would I find what all is going into the space on Olive 170? What is the potential place?
So there, yes, ma'am. There have been a few different renderings done. What I can do is I'm going to put my email in the chat. What I'm going to try to do is see if I can't right quick get you the link to some of the council packets that have had the renderings in it. That's quite a bit of multitasking, so I'm not sure I can pull that off. But if not, what I can do is I'm going to share my email. If you want to email me, I can just send you the link. And what I can do in the newsletter is I can provide the link in the newsletter that'll go out towards the end of next week.
Okay.
So folks can take a look at that. But I'll put my email in the link. You can email me in the chat, rather. You can email me and I can get that to you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Captain Lemons, we can go on with the next question if there's another hand raised. And again, make sure you're unmuted.
Ron, you are on.
Was there somebody? Okay.
Ron had his hand up, but he's still muted, so.
Ron, we're gonna have to move on unless you unmute.
I wanted to answer while we're waiting on Ron.
Can you put it in the chat, Ron? Because you're muted.
And just just to fill up time, I wanted to go ahead and answer a question that was left. I'm not sure, Miss Mimi, I'm not sure if this is, your statement is police station not seen as part of the Civic Plaza, safety concerns or not sufficient space. I'm not sure what you're asking specifically about that. And if you would, you could raise your hand and ask your question. That way we could better understand what your question is.
She's raised her hand. Would you like me allow her to speak, Mr. Smothers?
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right, can you hear me now, Councilman?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that was a statement that I think, Councilman Smotherson, that you made, that it was not seen as part of Civic Plaza. So I guess I'm looking for a little more information. I agree that I don't think a trailer is the best place for a state-of-the-art police department, especially if we're spending that kind of money planned, and probably won't address that kind of development anytime really soon. I mean, it could be another 20, 25 years before that kind of money is set aside to do that kind of development. So the basic concern is, what are you looking to do? Is it to create a space that has tighter security? So if you're moving detained people to between attorneys and a holding and booking or whatever, that everything is secure? Is it to have enough space for attorneys to meet with clients? I mean, is it to be a totally self-contained location, state-of-the-art kind of thing? Or is there just not enough space? What are you looking to do for that police department?
Well, again, as I said in the beginning, I want to make sure that everybody accesses the website and looks at the study and looks at the previous studies that we've had, so you can get a general understanding of everybody's opinion and then why the council is where we are. Now, this is one of Stacy's favorite saying, I'm in my I voice. This is about my opinion only. And to answer your question, Mimi, is to say this. If you really look at what's happening in Civic Plaza, you've got the WashU building, that's Lewis Place. That's actually now business offices and residential. You've got a hotel coming in that is being proposed right now to take over Delmar Harvard building, meaning that the hotel is going to be the Delmar building, and then what they're going to do with the Harvard building is make that a conference center and business center. Now, so what I'm actually stating is that Civic Plaza is evolving, and that's evolving to be more of a community site, a tourist site, a business site. And so what my feelings are is that the police don't fit that site, because they will literally take up most of that parking lot and the annex. Again, in my I voice, this is only me. You know, the annex and City Hall were originally a magazine company. Just because the police used to be in the building doesn't mean that they have to go back to being in the building, because originally it wasn't a police station in the first place. The second part of that is that I think the Civic Plaza should evolve and continue, and U City as a city government should continue with that evolution, and that is to make it a community place. And we can do that. Now, the answer to the other part of your question is, I would love to see our police have a state-of-the-art 21st century building built separately that would be secure for everything you've listed. Because understand something, even though the police will have a sally port in the renovation, they're still transporting prisoners that they will take into the building. Well, you're putting that in the same position, same area, same site as our business plaza, residential plaza, and community. So again, that's my opinion. And I'm hoping that answers your question. I will always be glad to talk to you about that, but I also want you to access those studies so that you can get a broader opinion about why the council is headed in the direction of renovating the annex.
And Councilman Swanson, what we will do, what I will do is in putting together a newsletter, I will put in links to previous council meetings and the studies, because we certainly have our opinions, but our job is to provide the information. I think you should be aware of your representative's opinions, but ultimately we want you to come to your own decisions about what you think. So our job is to give the information, a little bit of our opinion, and then make that available to you. So in the newsletter that comes out, and by the way, if there are folks on here who are not subscribed to our newsletter, I put my email in the chat. Go ahead and email me and I'll get you on the distribution list. You can feel free to share that and forward it to other people as well. But I want to make, that's going to be our primary way of getting information out, even after the pandemic, is through the newsletter. So we really want to build that distribution list.
Okay, before we get to the other two that have their hands raised, let me answer some quick questions real quick. One of the questions in the chat was, will the land on both the east and west sides of 170 be used? Also, when will the medical store on Olive, just east of North and South, be open, and what are the particulars? Let me say this, for instance, for one thing, it's for the Olive 170 development is not east and west because the west side of 170 is Olivet. But to answer your questions, yes, both sides are still being considered as part of the development, meaning the south and north side of Olive are being considered as part of the development. The other part of your question is where does the medical marijuana facility, where did that stand right now? And they are actively in the process of renovating that building, and you can see that they're working it in every day. I don't have a timeline. I'm not sure if Councilman Clay was given that, but we both were in communications with the owners of that building, and so again, don't have the particulars, but we will get that information for you and make sure that it's part of our next newsletter. All right, and then lastly, and I'll let Councilman Clay take over, and we'll listen since the hands up. Was Delmar Harbor ever option for the police station? And no, it was not. Delmar Harbor was never an option for the police station. So again, Councilmember Clay, let's move on.
And do we have any, Captain Lemons, do we have any hands up?
We have one more hand up from PCAC and from Ms. Hendricks again.
Okay.
Make sure you're unmuted.
Okay, I don't see the information in the chat.
What information is?
Your email.
Okay, let me post it again.
Yes, he
It's
did.
clayucity@gmail.com.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Clay, CLAY, ucity, UCITY @gmail.com.
And Councilmember Clay, you may want to make sure that you, on the top, you want to put in all panelists and attendees. You may have just all panelists. And that's why you didn't see it. And I'm going to post mine also, just to make sure.
I see it now. Yep, I see it now.
So I had answered questions and thought I was doing something. I was not.
All right.
So there is a question about
Councilman Clay,
there was a question about a vacant house
Ms. Hendricks?
in the music. Go ahead.
Thank you. Just a final question then, Councilman Smotherson, where is there a vision for where the police station would go or could go?
Well, again, who am I speaking with? I'm sorry.
This is Mimi. This is Mimi.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Again, in my voice, no, and I'll say it this way, in my voice, but because I've been on the council for now, this is my second term. Very early on, I did meet with WashU, the community development person for WashU, and I'm not sure if that's her title. At the time, that was a meeting with Cheryl Adelstein, and one of the things, and this is a continued conversation from the previous administration, previous mayor. So it's nothing that I created, but one of the locations that we were absolutely looking at is the Westgate Olive location, that lot. WashU owns that entire lot where Pete SureSave was. And if you all remember, WashU did sell us the land where our fire station sits right now at Westgate and Vernon. So again, in my voice, and I want to make sure that you all access the mayor, access the other, your neighbors and residents, and get the broader opinion of everybody. But that was one critical site that I thought about. So if that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
There was a question about COVID affecting tax revenues, sales tax revenues in the city, and has it? And the answer is yes, it has. Not as severely as we might have thought, and that's largely due to the fact that we did receive Councilman Smothers' CARES Act money, right? We got some CARES Act
Correct.
money.
That is correct.
Yeah, the municipality did receive some CARES Act money, so that helped. Actually helped quite a bit. But yes, revenues are down, but it was mitigated a little bit by the CARES Act. But, you know, we don't know what this next round of this next relief package is going to look like. And I don't want to be political here, but certainly the Democrats seem to be advocating for relief to municipalities and cities. That is not something that the other side seems as excited about. So we'll have to see what comes out in the wash. But, you know, as you know, lockdown and restrictions and other things continue. And so that's impacting our businesses, which is really the most important part. You know, the city has some reserves. I mean, we'll have to cut back. We'll have to tighten our belts, but we can make it. But our primary concern is really the businesses that don't have those kind of reserves. And so we're really concerned about them. So to that point, to our restaurants in the Loop and on Olive, call, go pick up stuff, do what you need to do to help support them, because that helps support everyone.
And may I jump in real quick, Councilmember Clay, and let people know, I just attended the legislative conference in Jeff City on the 9th and 10th. And just one of the things that I will be informing the city manager, who is again listening to our meeting tonight, and I was going to wait and do this to the council and make my report to the council. But one of the things that that we're going to be paying attention to is that a lot of the communities that received the CARES Act money aren't using that money. And they have a deadline of June 30th to actually use that money. If they aren't using that money or inappropriately using the money, they have to return it back to the state. And then it will be decided either by the governor or the legislative staff, legislators, to whether what happens with that additional money. Now, we don't know how much that's going to be, but I am going to make sure that our city manager is aware that there is a deadline of June 30th, that money has to be used. And there might be some additional money that we may have access to. So we will keep you informed.
Jerry has their hand up.
Yes. Hello.
Jerry, if you could please unmute.
My specific question was, how did revenues change between 2019 and 2020 because of COVID in a percentage amount? Is it down 1/4? Is it down 1/2? Is it down 3/4?
You know, I would need to get that exact information so I can place that in the newsletter. I don't have it. I know it is down. Again, by not an extreme amount because we had the mitigant of the CARES Act funding. But I would need to get you that exact figure. So I will follow up in the newsletter with that.
Okay, can we, and I'm hoping that we will get back to you on that. Can we move on to the next person that has their hand raised?
That was the last person with their hand raised.
Okay, all right, one more thing. I'm gonna go back to the chat. Just to say, what happens if Novus does not acquire the larger parcels, then what? What I will actually say is that Novus absolutely right now has identified and those larger parcels are the ones that we're after now. As I stated before, courts have made a decision on a couple of them, and we're just waiting for Novus to verify where they are with that. But I will, again, as I said before, in the next 30 days, we're going to know for sure because Novus is required to verify and make sure that, and we feel secure with where they are in acquiring those properties. And that is within the next 30 days. And we will absolutely know for sure at that time frame. So again, those larger parcels are already being sought after by Novus. We've got them in court, and there are decisions that are being made. Decisions have already been made on 2, and there is one that's still going through the system. So again, those larger parcels are already in the works. Now, what I will tell you is that one of the things that is public information, Novus owns Jeffrey Plaza already. Novus owns that plaza already. So if you were thinking that plaza was one of the larger parcels, no, but it is already owned by Novus. And I'm hoping that answers your question. Again, email me, call me, whatever you need. We can continue that at another time. I'm going to move on to the next question. And Stacy, I'm not sure if you want to address that. Is there a drawing of the proposed shopping site that we can see? And we've answered that question, but Stacy, I'll let you go ahead and address that. Are you there?
I'm sorry, responding to something in the chat. What was the question again?
No. I'll simply say that what I will say is this. We're going to make those drawings available to everyone on the nextdoor.com site. And then also email us and we can send that directly to you, but it is on the UCity website. That information is available on the UCity website.
And what I will do is, again, if you're not already receiving the newsletter, can everyone see my, well, I know you can't yell out, but hopefully everyone can see my email. If you aren't on the distribution list for our newsletter, please email me to get on it. I will put the response to the questions that we received, the links to the renderings of called the Market at Olive is the official name of the project. And all those renderings, we'll put links to all those. We can then put that on Nextdoor, and I have Naomi's my helper and helps me get things in other places. So we will try to put them in as many places as we can. But it really starts with the newsletter. That's going to be the way that we communicate.
Okay.
We have more stuff in the chat.
We have more stuff in the chat. Do you want to answer the question? Well, very quickly, Councilman.
Yeah, are you reading, Councilman Smith? Are you reading the streets question?
No,
from
I'm
Ruby?
reading this. I'm reading, good evening, council members. What is the planned use for the annex once it is renovated? Right now, the planned use for the annex is the police station. Right now, our police are in trailers and have been there, 4 to 5 years, I believe. And right now, the plan is to renovate the annex for the police. And I'm hoping that answers your question. If you have any other questions, please add them to the chat or give me a call or email them to me. Thank you.
And I can put our, Councilman Smotherson, I am looking at this question from, it looks like a Miss Lacey. One of the streets wearing away. So I think the general question seems to be about streets. And what I can also, so one of the things that Councilman Smotherson advocated for before I even got on council in 2018 was addressing streets in the 3rd Ward. And so as a result, we do have a schedule. There's a method by which the city evaluates streets and the condition of the streets. And then they've got a tier essentially. And so the most severe streets get addressed first. And then there's a schedule associated with that ranking. And we can put a link to that as well. But Councilman Smotherson, again, before I even got on, advocated for 3rd Ward streets to be addressed. Some had not gotten attention in decades. And I think Ms. Ruby was looking at some specific areas on streets, but what she's talking about would be encompassed in any street repaving. that would take place. So what we can do, we can put a link to that list, and you can see kind of where your street may fall if in fact it is one that has been identified as needing some work. There are several streets in the 3rd Ward that do need some work. There are many, in fact, and they're on that list. There's some that don't. There's some that are in good shape, but there many are. But I'll link to that list in the newsletter.
And I will say that we do have a list of proposed streets for this year, but again, we'll have to check with the city manager and see if that plan and has changed at all due to COVID, and also when that will start. So, but we do have a plan, and every year I believe our city manager has successfully been paving streets for the past 2 or 3 years. And that's something that literally stopped. And it, not blaming anybody, but that literally stopped at one point in time with our previous administration. So just letting you know, our city manager has been doing a great job in doing that for the past 2-3 years since he's been on board. So yes, let's move forward.
Council members, Miss Linda has their hand up.
Yes, please.
I had 2 questions in the chat, but I was asking, how can you get a copy of the recording?
I think this will be, and Captain Lemons, you might be able to help with that. I'm actually not sure. It is being recorded.
We are currently live on YouTube, and also email link can be sent out, and we will send that out to Councilmember Clay and Councilmember Smothers.
So we will include that again in the newsletter. All roads lead back to the newsletter because that's the most efficient way to get stuff out.
Okay, and I was just curious, how many attendees are on the call?
26.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I will say that we've got, want to try to get to everything in the chat. I will say we've got about 10 minutes left because again, we want to respect Captain Lemon's time and the responsibilities that he has. So we'll try to lightning round through these. So I see something on the trolley. Any news of the reactivated Delmar trolley? Not that we have heard. We've not heard any news about the trolley restarting. Certainly not in probably several months. I will state that the city did require that the trolley company, I believe it's called, did take out some measure of a bond. If the trolley is unsuccessful, that there would be enough money to remove the tracks. There's a decision point there because putting in the tracks was very detrimental to our businesses. And so removing them, we're not sure if that would necessarily be the best idea, but there is money there to take out the infrastructure if it comes to a point where the trolley does not look to be viable. But again, the Trolley Corporation has not communicated anything that I'm aware of as to it reactivating. Let's talk about trying to invigorate the 3rd Ward. Can you share some of your strategic plans? Housing, safety. So that could be the question I'm reading is there was talk about trying to invigorate the 3rd Ward. Can you share some of your strategic plans? That could be a meeting in and of itself, and that may be the focus of our next meeting. I'll say that very quickly. Development is in many ways the key to a lot of this. Not to say that we don't need to certainly support our police in their community-oriented policing program. Not that there are other things that we can't do, but development is really the cornerstone, because if we get economic activity, if we raise property values, there's a lot of positive things that flow just from those actions alone. One of the things that there's been in the chat, issues about vacant houses. As you know, we have significant, well, we have vacancy issues. We do have some derelict home issues. We want to rebalance our home ownership to rental rate as well. And a lot of those things begin to address themselves, not that we just completely leave them alone, but address themselves when you have strong development, when you have strong economic activity. So that's really been our focus. That's a very quick answer because we're running out of time. And so this gives me some thought to Councilman Smotherson. Next time we do this, we may want to focus on that question singularly.
Sure, absolutely correct. And just very quickly, I just wanted to say, and just make sure that people are aware, one of the other things that I've been involved with is the U-City Township under the guidance of committee man Farrakhan Shagat, and he's been doing a great job. We've had 2 COVID testing sites that happened on Centennial Commons. And I want to very quickly say, because we are running out of time, with the help of the U-City Township and Affinia Health, please be aware that when the state does in fact takes that next step and send out COVID vaccines to organizations like Affinia Health, we are planning, we've got the approval of the city manager already, planning to use the Centennial Commons site as a COVID vaccine site. So again, that's in the works. But again, we have to wait on the state governor and the governor to actually move into that next step of offering that vaccine. Again, I just wanted to thank everybody for attending this meeting. And I will go ahead and I'll turn it over to Councilman Clay. I wanted to thank you. Hopefully we can do this again. I'm hoping that one day soon, and it doesn't look like soon, that we will be able to meet in person, but thank you all for attending tonight. This went very well, I think. And we hopefully offered a lot of information that was able to help you. So I'll say my goodbyes. Thank you. See you. Stay in touch. And Councilmember Clay, thank you.
Yep. And I'm going to put, Councilmember Smotherson, can you put your phone number in the chat? I'm going to put mine.
I will.
And Jerry's, so clayucity@gmail.com does not work. It should. It should. If not, Jerry, you can give me a call. I'm not sure why that wouldn't work, but you can give me a call if you want to. Councilman Smotherson's putting his phone number in. And I did put in the, did you all receive that in the chat? It was about a 30% reduction in sales tax year over year. City Manager Rose, thank you for sending that to me. But again, we did receive some CARES Act funds that help mitigate that. But if you just look at the gross receipts, 1 year over the other, it's about a 30% reduction. Okay.
All right. It looks like we're going to end it there. Is that correct? Is that correct, sir?
Yeah, I think so. All right. Thank you. Captain Lemons, thank you so much.
You are welcome.
All right.
You
Take
all
care.
Have a good night. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Bye.